Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Every time I start talking about boxing, a white man got full rockin' my gun out there.
It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Welcome everybody to the Don't Be Blasé podcast. As always, I'm your host, Speak Caruana, with my good friend, Steve Burrows.
Just a bit of a laugh there, is there, mate, when you say good?
Well, you know, we debate a lot of things, and I'm starting to question our friendship. But we're coming to you live from the House of Pain, otherwise known as Snap Fitness in the Adelaide CBD. First of all, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Larry and Lad. Go see the boys in Region Arcade, get yourself a sweet coffee and listen to some awesome tunes. But for now, on with the show. And today's show is taking a bit of a Hollywood theme to it. We're going to debate Adam Sandler. Is he good, bad, or irrelevant? Because my good friend Steve here seems to think he's still a bit of a superstar.
well, I don't know. Box office doesn't count, but his Netflix is through the roof. He is the number one watched actor/movie on Netflix.
That's great, Steve. But is it any good?
Well, I'm just addressing your relevant point. I'd say he's still relevant. There's a new film coming out soon, actually. Him and Ben Stiller, Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, what's it called?
I don't know.
Oh, so it sounds like a beautiful film, Steve. You're selling yourself really short very early. It's great.
No, it looks good. Cast alone, you would expect it to be kind of good. His actually last film, the Sandy Wexler film, that was pretty good. Did you check that one out?
No, of course I did. Yeah.
Of course you didn't.
No.
That one was all right. That was where he plays based on his real life agent, Sandy Wexler.
Oh, there we go. That sounds riveting. So
yeah.
This is just classic cinema going on here, Steve.
It's classic film, and he the thing is with it, like most of his films recently, he kind of plays this character where it's kind of quirky. He's got this funny voice, or remember Waterboy,
yeah.
Zohan.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's a bit the same. He has this kind of he's a Jewish character, and he plays this. It's this accent that he says.
So it's very sticky.
Yeah,
it's very average. It's
not bad. Actually,
pretty irrelevant.
It's one. It's one of his better ones in the last probably 5 or 10 years. Maybe.
But see, you can't go with the cast because I did sit. Well, I didn't sit all the way through it because it was horrendous. But the Jack and Jill. It had Al Pacino in it. It's Al Pacino, and it sucked. I'd take that as Adam Sandler dragging the life out of one of the greatest actors of modern times.
That was a dreadful film.
There we go.
Yeah, but you can't define one's career on one film.
Well, how about? I don't know. Let's see. Like Zohan.
Okay, that's 2 in a row now. Okay, what else you got?
The thing is, here we go. And this is the one that you got excited about, and Steve did message me about this one, and I saw the trailer, and I thought, you know what, this one's got premise, because it did have another great comedian in it. That's my boy.
Oh, yeah, Samberg.
Andy Samberg, because I'm a big Andy Samberg fan. Loved Hot Rod and that sort of thing. Loved all the stuff he did with Lonely Island and stuff, but yeah, that movie sucked.
Believe it or not, I actually haven't seen that one.
You haven't seen that one?
No.
Well, you'll probably love it because you're defending the rest of the steaming turds that you're putting out there. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's pretty shit.
Yeah. Actually, I've been really keen to it. Hot Rod is a brilliant film.
Yes.
And Samberg is hilarious. He's Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yes, great show. Great
so
show.
Good. It's one of my favourite shows at the moment. So yeah, I have high expectations. I can't wait to watch that one.
See, I'll give you that because Andy Samberg is to me almost the modern day Adam Sandler. Like Adam Sandler, I'm not just trashing Adam Sandler for the sake of trashing Adam Sandler. I was like everyone else. I loved the early stuff, and I loved the Billy Madison, loved the Happy Gilmore. Now, admittedly, Billy Madison doesn't hold up as well for me because I'm older now and poo-wee fart jokes just aren't as funny as they used to be when I was a teenager. But it still has the classic moments and stuff in it. But Happy Gilmore is still one of my favourites of all time. I'll always give him credit for that. Waterboy had its moments. It was very good. It's a good, light-hearted sort of comedy. I think his best film ever was Wedding Singer.
Okay, yeah.
Wedding Singer is classic, and that is just really good. And I really, really enjoyed 50 First Dates.
Oh, Drew Barrymore.
Drew
yes.
Barrymore one, yeah. So the first two with Drew Barrymore. I haven't seen the most recent one with Drew Barrymore because, once again, Adam Sandler is irrelevant these days. So I couldn't drag myself to watch it. I don't know what it's called. It starts with a B or something.
Blended.
Blended. There
Wasn't bad.
Wasn't bad?
It had its moments.
Exactly. So that's the problem with Adam Sandler. He has his moments, but he's not the super. And I need you to convince me that he's still a superstar.
He's still the jury's. I think he's got like 6 films with Netflix. I think he's made 3. I think the next one is 4. So he's halfway through his gig there. The first one was a ridiculous 6.
Now, was that any good? Because I once again, great cast, seemed like a good premise, but was it any good?
The premise was excellent. Moving on. The second one was it was him and Spade.
Yep.
And it was when I think the Do-Over.
Okay.
And once again, that was actually I enjoyed that film. I fell asleep towards the end, but I do that anyway.
So riveting cinema.
I do that anyway.
I'll save you there because in our advanced old man washed age, I do too struggle to get through movies, especially if you watch them at a cinema. I struggle in cinemas more so than at home. But you're in a comfy environment. You're watching TV. You're not on your phone. Just like I have the attention span of a millennial. I can't sit there and just watch something. And if I'm comfortable in a dark room, 9 times out of 10 I'm going to fall asleep because I'm an old man and like naps.
Does that say something about films in general of today? Or are you just saying just because you're comfortable?
Oh, if I'm too comfortable, I'm going to fall asleep.
Yeah.
Just because I'm old.
I've always fell asleep. In the old day, I used to fall asleep playing video games.
Right.
Yeah. I can't stay awake. I think there's a term for it.
Narcolepsy, yeah. It's a serious sleeping illness.
Yeah. It's not so serious for me, but yes, I do fall asleep. So that's not to say anything bad against the film. The film is actually quite good. I watched it the second time, and yeah, I like the premise. It was funny. The third one out was the Sandy Wexler film.
Yes. So that's the thing. Like I understand. Like it's he's almost gone back to his Saturday Night Live roots. And my issue with Saturday Night Live, it's a great show, and it is very funny. But the problem is, it seems like they have a funny people. They have a good premise. They have a couple of good spots throughout their sketch or film or whatever, and they just end really badly. So it always leaves me with a really sour taste in my mouth with the film.
Yes.
So that's my issue with Adam Sandler. Like, it seems like he's just gone back to doing just sketches. He'll come up with I've got an agent and he's funny. That's a good premise, and this, but it's not a full story. It's not a real movie. Even though Happy Gilmore was a stupid movie, it had a story and it kind of went somewhere.
There was nothing stupid about Happy Gilmore. There was nothing stupid about Happy Gilmore.
But yeah, like I said, even like Wedding Singer, and your 50 First Dates, they went somewhere. He actually had a story. He had a premise which turned into a story. It had an arc and it went somewhere. These new ones come out. Like I said, the Zohan. I was excited to see that one because I thought, seems like a pretty good premise. Once again, good premise, couple of really funny spots throughout the movie, but then it just, like, he doesn't know how to wrap it up. He doesn't have an arc. And so that's my issue with him. He just makes terrible movies now.
What did you think of Anger Management, him and Jack Nicholson?
That was good. That was okay. But once again, was what was the last?
You've mentioned a few good films so far, considering it's pretty irrelevant. You mentioned a few good films.
Well, like I said, he had his moments. He was a big star. I did enjoy his films, and I have seen most of them. But now I just feel that he's not. He just doesn't have it anymore. The thing is, you're talking about, I've said in a lot of good films, but they're all like 10 years ago.
Have you seen? Talk about 10 years ago. Have you seen Click?
Yes.
Click, that's a bit of a tearjerker.
That was a tearjerker, yes. But that was, I would give a lot of credit there to Christopher Walken, because I'm just a huge Christopher Walken fan.
Sure. We talked about Christopher Walken the other day about his monologue in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
I think that will go down as one of the greatest scenes.
One of the greatest single speeches of all time. But anything that Christopher Walken does is pretty good. Just the delivery he has.
Yeah.
But yeah, just, I don't know, like
did you see the film Funny People? Him and Seth Rogen.
Yes, I did.
Eric Bana.
Yes. Oh, the exception, if anyone has seen that movie, there's only really one good scene in it, and that's when Eric Bana is trying to explain AFL football to a bunch of Americans. That is possibly the greatest scene in that film. But for the rest of that movie, wasn't a fan. It
wasn't a comedy. Even though it was called Funny People, it actually wasn't a comedy.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, I knew it was supposed to be a serious film, and I don't like his forays into serious films. Like, Click was that was mostly a comedy. I mean, anytime one of your best punchlines is farting in David Hasselhoff's face, you can't really be considered a serious movie. But that was, like I said, it had a good arc, it had a good story. You know, and like that hooked me in because I wanted to see what happened at the end. All these new films have been thrown out there because you haven't seen That's My Boy. That really burnt me.
You're stuck on that
I'm
one.
stuck on that one because that's become, to me, the new generation of Adam Sandler films. And so it's one of those things, it's kind of tarnished me. Like we said a couple of weeks ago, how we did our top 5 rappers dead or alive, and Eminem. And Eminem's brilliant, and you can point to all the early stuff, and that's brilliant. And you know, he's got other songs that have been good since then. But the Zippity Doodah album really just tarnished me. And now every time I listen to Eminem, all I can hear is the Zippity Doodah album. You know, and that killed it for me.
So you're saying one bad apple
can spoil the bunch, yes. That's the saying, yes.
And yet Kanye made your top 5. You don't think some of his...
I stand by Kanye.
Everything? Oh, wowee.
And ahead of his time, that man.
Yeah?
Yeah, always ahead of his time. It was one of those things like 808s and Heartbreaks. Everyone panned it at the time. No one liked it because it was auto-tune and he was sort of singing. And then what happened about 2 years later? Everyone was on auto-tune. Drake became a huge star singing about his feelings.
Oh, Drake.
Yep. Hey, mate, he's made a shit ton of money. He's very successful. He's probably the biggest hip-hop artist in the game right now. No, you don't like it because you're hung up on your Bone Thugs fantasy. But
you know who else has made a lot of money?
Who?
Adam Sandler. Adam Sandler is one that's made a lot of money. And he continues today to make a lot of money.
But you can't defend the quality of the work. You know, you still would like. I mean, I will actually defend Drake's quality of work. I listen to him quite often, yeah, and he's got some good tunes.
So you're Drake.
I've seen him in concert, and I will defend him. But Adam Sandler it's like he developed a style. He had he has his characters. He has the way he does things, and they were quite good. But it just seems like now he's just doing a caricature of himself. He's not being authentic. He's not coming up with anything new. He's just sort of going, if I do this voice, this is funny. And then if I do that voice and put this nose on, that's funny. It's like, oh, dude, like Jack and Jill, you know, like you dressed up as your twin sister. That is shit house.
A lot of comedians do that, I think. But, you know, when $20 million is on the line and someone comes to you with a script and say, look, you're going to get paid $20 million for 7 weeks of filming. And it seems like pretty funny at the time. You probably, I'd sign my name to that.
Yeah, everyone would, you know, but I don't know. Just to me, he just doesn't hold the same weight that he used to. And you're still defending him like, and this is one thing, like me and Steve are big fans of comedy, and we've always been fans of audio commentary. So like listening to stand-up or listening to comedy CDs is a big thing. Like it's, you know, young kids probably don't know that. But that's like a thing. Like me and my brother used to listen to, driving to work, to and from work, we listened to Dave Chappelle stand-up.
Right.
And I've always loved listening to stand-up. Like if you can get a joke with the words and stuff like that, or it's something clever, or you know your wordplay is good, or you're telling a good story, that's what will hook me in. And Steve did introduce me to Adam Sandler's early work, recording albums and doing sketches and stuff like that, like the Talking Goat and stuff.
Talking the hypnotist.
Yeah. So if you can go look up that stuff, like especially Talking Goat, it's like a really it sounds stupid and it is classic stupid Sandler, but it's also classic good funny Sandler. Like and just. Yeah, talking about, what was the barbershop one? We tried to get a friend to join a cult.
Join the cult.
Yeah, joining a cult sketch as well. It's just really funny. It's that sort of clever here. Like, he was clever. You know, I mean, like some of it's a bit dumb. There's still the poo-wee fart jokes in there. But he had some genuine, like, good comedy in there. But now I just feel like he's just skating off reputation.
Well, he could be. Actually, have you ever seen him at talk shows?
Yes.
He brings the house down. He's a very, very funny guy. He's still a very, very funny guy. I think it's one thing to be funny. I guess it's another thing to make funny films. But the thing is, I still think his films are funny. I think that they're good. It just seems to me that a couple of them he's phoned them in.
Yeah.
Almost.
But that's why I'm saying he's almost.
But that doesn't define his career, though.
But it feels like it does, though, because like he's just taken like the backseat. He's just thrown his name on things, and I just feel like he's cheapened his reputation by throwing his name on things. And that's what that's all you've got in the old Scarface. We've got to use word in your balls, you know, and like you're not gonna break it for anyone, you know, and like he's just thrown away his name. He's thrown away his word by just like taking the money and just trotting out really, really shit product. And you're only as good as you're only as good as your last movie. You're only as good as your last. For us, we're wrestlers. We're only as good as your last wrestling match. You're only as good as your last game in the AFL. And you can't skate off reputation forever.
I feel like you're basing it on that last That's the Boy, and that's probably the last one you have watched.
No, Jack and Jill was the last one I watched.
Okay.
I gave him another chance after That's My Boy.
I think he's made probably half a dozen films since then.
And they've all been terrible.
Well, like I said, the jury's still out. This next one looks really... I don't know the title, but it's him and Ben Stiller and Dustin Hoffman and some lady. And it looks like it could be very funny.
Well, okay, I'll leave that one there, Steve. You may have got me over the line there. We'll give him potential because he's still working. So he may have a renaissance, like a last, little hurrah that really wins everyone over. Or he could be Michael Jordan playing at the Wizards.
Yeah, that's true. Did you enjoy the remake that he did? You're a big NFL fan.
Yes.
The one he's in jail, Longest Yard.
Oh,
Did you see that one?
Yes.
You didn't like that one?
I really like that one.
That was so good.
Damn it.
And all our worlds come together. It was beautiful. It was Sandler. It was NFL. And there was Goldberg.
There was Kevin Nash.
Stone Cold.
Oh.
Great Carly was in there.
Nelly, Michael Irvin, Terry
Crews.
Oh, Steve, I hate to admit
We're
this one.
notching this one up or what?
This hurts me. Guys, the 9 people that are listening to this is, you have no idea how much pain I'm in right now.
No, I'm going to get Mum to listen to this one. I'm proud of this one.
I want to get my mum not to listen to this one because I'm actually going to have to give this one to you, Steve, because you've won me over with Longest Yard. I mean, I know the new stuff is so terrible, but I really, really, really did enjoy Longest Yard. So,
we'll take this one. It's on the chalkboard.
There we go.
It's going on.
Ladies and gentlemen, Steve's first win. 3 episodes, 1 win. Steve.
That was Stu.
Adam Sandler, good, bad, and irrelevant. You have won that one. So we give 1 big gold star to Steve. And that's really killed the buzz of the show because that's only like 15 minutes in and we've already decided this one. So we're going to go for a second topic for today. Now, this may entertain a few people, it may turn a few people off, but as you may know, Steve and I are former professional wrestlers and huge wrestling fans. Yes, we're nerds, and yes, we know it's not real. But it's just something that we grew up with and something we love. So this is another topic that we have discussed at length. Who is the biggest star of all time in the professional wrestling world? Hulk Hogan or my man, Stone Cold Steve Austin?
So you're going with Stone Cold on this one?
I just dubbed him my man. So.
Well, that's irrefutable.
And he sent me 2 tweets before on Twitter, so we're practically best friends.
To his wedding.
Yeah,
surely.
Exactly. Yeah. The third one he's had or something. But I'm going with Austin. But I want you to lay your case with me for Hulk Hogan.
Well, I think I don't need to have to do anything. I think history speaks for itself.
But there's people that might be listening to this that don't know the history of wrestling. So, Steve, you might want to pad this out and tell us a bit of history.
Yeah, we've got 20 minutes to go here. All right. So I was probably 7 when I first saw Hulk Hogan, I reckon. 19, yeah, it would have been...
1965?
Yeah. I'm about 2 years older than you
are.
So I think it was 1987, roughly 87, around that time. I had the old Hulkamania tapes.
Oh, there you go.
It was Hulkamania 4 tape. I went around
just for any young people again, cassette tapes. We used to have to go to a video store and you would give them your video store card and your little bit of money.
You could laminate
and you could borrow a movie and then you'd have to return it either in a day or in a week. You laugh, but there's a lot of people that don't know that video stores existed. I used to work in a video store.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And I know all about the tapes, the wrestling tapes. I used to even go to a video store on the other side of town because that had all the wrestling tapes. Yes, I'm that much of a nerd. I don't want anyone to be under the false pretenses that I am cool. I am not. But yeah, that's go on, guys. Keep going on with your Hulkamania tape.
The Hulkamania tape. It was Hulkamania 4, and I think there was 3 or 4 matches in it. Him and Boss Man. Him and I can't remember, but I remember it's him and Andre. Him and Andre. It might have been him and Sid. It was him and Andre was the main event, and I watched that tape over and over again. I was only young, and it made me infatuated with wrestling. It made me infatuated with big muscular men.
Righto. You're taking this on a very different tangent, Steve. Let's keep it to wrestling.
All right. So anyway, that got me started, and after that, I was hooked. So, at that time, there was a little bit of wrestling on TV, but you really had to go seek it out, and video stores was your place. So I hired every video I could, and this went for years, probably up until early 90s. And then Hogan fell off. And once Hogan, when he was wrapping up, I think he lost to Warrior, WrestleMania 6 or 7.
Facts don't matter.
And he lost that. And after that, I was like, well, if Hogan's not the champ, then there is no such thing as wrestling anymore.
Oh, there we go.
And I stopped watching wrestling. I remember coming to school, I was year 6 or year 7, and I just saw it on Wide World Sports. They used to show the last 3 minutes of the match, and they showed Warrior beating Hogan, and I was like, this is rubbish. And I was off it. Yeah. And only Hogan could do that to someone. This dude sold out so many stadiums, wrestled 300 plus times a year at sold out venues.
Yeah, that's impressive. Like I am impressed by the Hulk Hogan era, like the 80s when they first made the wrestlers big cartoon characters and that sort of thing, and he did have a great impact. But
there was a cartoon called Hulk Hogan's Rock and Roll Wrestling.
Yeah,
there was,
cool. There was a lot of cartoons in the 80s. There was Fat Albert. And that was Bill Cosby.
But it was crossover.
Pre-pudding drink.
He was so big that he crossed over. We're talking Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah.
It just go. I mean, that's one example.
Exactly.
I'm running out of more. I think there was a few.
You've got some really 80s references there that young people aren't getting. So this is my argument for Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, he came through at a bigger time. Like 80s was a huge time for wrestling. In the early 90s, it did sort of fall off a little bit. And that was, I'll give you credit, it was a large fact in part because of Hulk Hogan wasn't there because he was such a big star. But he was all they had. And so once he left, the whole, everyone stopped watching it. But the resurgence came when he came back and he's turned into a bad guy, and that was a big deal. I'll give you credit for that.
Oh, that was my point. I was coming back.
I just chopped you out of the knees there. But the thing is with Stone Cold, he just got popular at the right time. Wrestling was starting to make it up to you again. I was in high school at this stage. We're talking about 97, 98. I was around 14, 15 years old. And that was when wrestling just exploded again. And Stone Cold just had that character that, you really wanted to be. I'm not a redneck from Texas, but you watch the stuff that he did, and he was just it wasn't even so much about the wrestling. I couldn't tell you 10 good matches that he had.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
Interesting point.
I couldn't tell you. But the thing is, I'm talking about, this is the reason why I think he's the biggest wrestling star, because 90% of people couldn't tell you the wrestling matches he had. But they could tell you all the cool shit that he did. That's the best thing about that. It needs to transcend whatever the sport. Because people aren't going to watch wrestling because they like wrestling. But he made it a pop culture. Like friends that I went to school with, they all watch wrestling. Wrestling was the cool thing to watch because of what's Stone Cold going to do this week. People that don't like wrestling aren't going to watch wrestling for wrestling. They want to watch, they're going to flick onto this show because there's action, and here he goes, he's driving a Zamboni through the entranceway and knocking over light stands, and then he's running across that and jumping into the ring on top of guys. It didn't matter what he was, the matches. It didn't matter if he won or lost. It was just, it was just about seeing him, and he was going to chug beers and stuff like that. He's going to give everyone the finger and stuff. He was just a really cool guy. You kind of watched it and went, I just want to be that guy for for a day. You wanted to be him.
That was amazing. That was on Hogan's coattails. It was what had happened is a quick personal story. I turned off the wrestling once I thought Hogan was over. I met my now wife actually in '97, and she had watched Fox. She was watching wrestling. I said, I used to watch this when I was a kid. Who's in this? And she goes, Lex Luger, so and so. I said, is Hulk Hogan still in this? And she said, yes, but he's a bad guy. I was like, no way, I don't believe it. I had to watch it. From that moment on, and she regrets it, that changed my life. That was probably the catalyst of me and you actually becoming friends, Rocky, because had I not flicked over to TNT, WCW Nitro to watch Hogan and Dennis Rodman and Kevin Nash and Scott Hall and all these cool guys, and Stone Cold was kind of like, mid-card at this time, Intercontinental belt. I tuned in, and that changed my life. That got me back into wrestling. That got me back in the backyard and wrestling on trampolines. That got me to a point where my ears pricked up when I heard there was a wrestling gym in Paraka, and the rest is history. That was Hogan.
Yeah, but see, I can tell you a similar story. I went to a friend's house. I didn't have the pay TV at the time. and I went to a friend's house to watch a Boomers game, the Australian Boomers.
Oh, yes.
And in a timeout, we flicked over and it happened to pop up wrestling on the screen. It was TNT and it was WCW. And then I was like, oh, who's in this? And he goes, oh, Hulk Hogan. I said, oh, Hulk Hogan. He goes, yeah, he's a bad guy. I'm like, what? You know, and like, because for those that don't know, you know, Hulk Hogan was the, you know, American as apple pie superhero, you know, cartoon character. He was always the eternal good guy. And so for him to go from, like, I had stopped watching when I was maybe 8 and then discovering it again when I was 15, and all of a sudden, you know, my childhood shattered because now the guy that's supposed to be the all-American hero is a bad guy. Yes, we know wrestling's not real, but it did affect us. That sparked up my interest again, and then I went back to watching WWF, and that's when I found Stone Cold. Now, I am going to blame Hulk Hogan now because that initial interest also led me to fall back in love with wrestling, to then also find the same wrestling gym in Baraka and start training a professional wrestler and meet one Steve Burrows. So I'm going to blame Hogan for being a prick and making me become friends with Steve Burrows. So for the last 15 years of agony of being your friend, I'm going to blame Hulk Hogan. So therefore, Stone Cold's going to win by default because he never made me want to go and wrestle you.
But look at you. You're now, we're streaming to tens of people.
Just the tens and tens of fans worldwide that listen to this show. But yeah, like...
Because of Hulk Hogan.
Oh, but Hulk Hogan's not the biggest star, though, because it's like Austin's done better movies. Hogan wanted to branch out into movies. Austin's actually done good movies. We even discussed one earlier. It was The Longest Yard, and Austin was in it, and he was really good in that movie.
You're forgetting Mr. Nanny? Are you forgetting Mr. Nanny?
I wiped that from memory on purpose. You know? And I'm not going to forget, what was the other one? Santa with Muscles. That was terrible. I think only Damian Slater has seen that movie, and I think he owns it on DVD because he, like us, is also a real super cool dude. But yeah, no, he wanted to be the big star. You know what I mean? Both of them probably wanted to get to the mega star status that The Rock's hit. But I don't see The Rock as a wrestler anymore. I see him as a superstar. Like, he's just transcended wrestling. He's done what all the guys want to do, like your Roddy Pipers, your Hogans, your Austins that went into movies. He's transcended a lot and just become he's actually the highest paid movie star in the world now. So
him and Sandler. I think the time from memory, just tying that back in. I think him and Sandler 1 and 2.
You won that argument, Steve. Let it go. But I'm just as far as the guys that sort of, if you mention Hulk Hogan to 90% of people these days, I mean, unless they're around our age, they're not going to know who he is. But people our age and older and people younger are going to know who Stone Cold Steve Austin is. And you see guys like kids in the backyard now stuffing around. They don't so much do wrestling moves and like wrestle in the backyard. They just drink beers and give each other stunners because that's the cool thing to do, because Austin was just a cool character. I mean, he's got his own podcast now. I listen to it as well. He's just got that personality. He doesn't seem like he's playing a character. He just seems like he's being Steve, and he's just being an absolute, just a champion bloke, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing about wrestling. Just because he sounds like a good bloke, and that's nice of you to say that about him, Rocky. But
I told you, we're friends. He sent me 2 tweets. We're actually best friends now.
But Hogan, I mean, first of all, he had a blender.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have to bring that up. That was kind of like, that was my ace.
That's your ace, and I know that story. Okay, just for a backstory for everyone. Hulk Hogan has the same agent as George Foreman. And he was originally pitched the George Foreman grill. It was going to be the Hulk Hogan grill, and he went, no one will buy that. I don't want to sell that. And then he took the next deal, which was the blender, and George Foreman went on to sell, 40 million grills? Yes. And he's known for the great grill press. Like, you have a grill, it's like, you got a George Foreman grill. Hulk Hogan turned that down because he's not the best wrestler of all time.
That's nice. I remember, actually, when I think about it, Hulk Hogan was he made himself.
Yes.
When I say that, I mean, he didn't have $1 million corporation behind, or $1 billion corporation behind him.
He did. It was
Well, he was wrestling for, I think, WWF.
Yes.
And then he went and made Rocky 3.
Yes.
And came back into
just wrestling.
Into wrestling, that was what catapulted him.
So I'll cut you off there, because that was sort of, they both sort of took over the WWF, which is now WWE for those that don't know what we're talking about. They came in at the same, similar sort of positions with the company. You know what I mean? The company put a huge risk and a huge gamble on the very first WrestleMania with Hulk Hogan. So it was financially, just floating, and then it exploded with Hulk Hogan, and he helped it explode. Give you that. But then also by the same token, like when Austin was about to become a huge star, the company was also in a very similar low spot and then attached it to Hogan. Sorry, not to Hogan.
Oh, Hogan, it's on your brain, isn't it?
Sure. That was a slip. And attached it to Austin, and then it exploded even bigger. And it became a billion-dollar corporation and public traded company based off the hard work of one Stephen Austin.
Well, actually, I'll come in now. And actually, it wasn't... Stone Cold just happened to be there. It was actually a publicity stunt. A lot of wrestling does this. You know, to draw new audiences, they do publicity stunts, or they draw in well-known made profiles, and they brought in Mike Tyson, the baddest man on the planet, and they brought him in, and they said, "Look, who we got? You know, Hogan's not here. Who can we have?" And they rolled through Undertaker, probably wouldn't work. Shawn McMichaels, that's probably not going to work. And they said, "Oi, Baldy, you doing anything over there?" And I think he was doing his boots up. He was kern jerking at the time. And he said, "Oh, look, I've got nothing better to do." And they said, "Look, come out here, talk some smack with Mike Tyson, and he's going to bitch slap you," and that's the end of it. Just so happened that Stone Cold took things into his own hands, took matters into his own hands, caused a ruckus, and for some reason the audience actually jumped on that.
Yeah, well, I think you're forgetting...
So he's a bad employee, by all means. That's what I understand.
I just like you forgetting a bit of revisionist history here, because once again, I'm going to get really nerdy with the wrestling stuff. Sorry for those listening at home. But I think you're forgetting the fact that the biggest match that Hogan had was the first WrestleMania at the stage. And who was his tag team partner?
Mr. T.
Mr. T. Now, was Mr. T a wrestler, or was he just a real popular celebrity?
He was...
This boy sounds like a motorboat. He was just a real popular celebrity, and they attached him to, who's this big jabroni with the yellow mustache? Oh, we'll give him Mr. T, and that'll make him famous. That you throwing in the Mike Tyson comparison is a really poor choice.
As I was saying, and then it just flowed on from that. So Shawn Michaels, sorry, not Shawn McMichaels.
That's a little tip of the cap to our great trainer.
Shawn Michaels, he obviously was probably the best in-ring performer of all time, and he put on a half-assed match, enough to have Stone Cold become or launch him as a star. I think Stone Cold really needed a lot of help from Tyson and Shawn Michaels and
I think you're
and whoever else didn't put a hand up for that gig.
You're really boring people with the facts, with the wrestling facts, and that you're really ruining the whole process of this show, Steve. Facts don't matter on this show. We know this. You got to keep it lighthearted. You got to come up with points that don't involve facts.
Okay.
And the fact is, like I said before, it didn't matter about wrestling. Yes, he wasn't the best wrestler in the ring. He didn't have the greatest, quote unquote, work rate, or didn't put on the best matches. But he just transcended that by being just the coolest guy. He's the guy that you wanted to see. And he was the guy that I would be excited on Tuesday nights to come home and watch TV, because I wanted to see what he's going to do next. It wasn't who is he going to wrestle, who is he going to fight, and this and that. It was like, what's he going to do? He brought a monster truck out there and ran over the Rock's car. He blew up a bus with I don't know how he blew up the bus still, but he had like a forklift thing and he dropped something on the bus and the bus blew up. See, it didn't matter because it was Stone Cold Steve Austin. One of the best things I've ever seen was he literally came out there during one match, just ran out during a title match. I think it was The Rock and Mankind or something. And he just hit him with a chair, threw his hat at Vince McMahon, and then just walked out. It was still the greatest thing I've ever seen. He could win you over in 10 seconds.
I can't understand how someone's so easily entertained still, and I'm going to bring it back, bags on Sandler. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. How can you be...
I expect a lot from my comedians. From my wrestlers, I don't expect a whole lot.
Look, you know what? I think you've been... I think you've been on point. I'm not going to... Look, can we give half points? Is there such thing as half points?
I think we might give this one as a tie. We might agree to disagree.
I agree to disagree.
Which is pretty much our last 15 years of life. But as the record...
A lot of compromise.
There's a lot of compromise. Every strong relationship has it. But so we'll give that one sort of 50-50 split. I don't think we'll ever win each other over on that one. Steve is still hung up on his childhood fantasies of Hulk Hogan one day being his dad.
I've got that issue.
Mate, we all do. So we'll give that one a tie. So I think the tiebreaker will be... Well, it'll be a tiebreaker, but we're going to go into a top three again.
Top three.
Now, top three. This is going to be the top three AFL players of all time. So far, we've done our top 3 NBA 3-point, or just top 3 3-point shooters in basketball. We've done our top 5 dead or alive hip hop acts.
That's right.
Now we're going to go just into our top 3 AFL players. Steve, who you got?
These are 3 favourite players, presumably.
That's okay. It doesn't have to be the best. It just has to be your favourite.
Well, we will start off with the best. Andrew McLeod. This guy, he was phenomenal. It's funny because I think he started around, whenever, 95, 96, 97. I remember when he first started, there was just a little, he looked unbelievable, but I remember hearing about this little bit of bad press about him, that, he would go to clubs and he was kind of like this troublemaker. So, to be honest with you, I didn't jump on board straight away.
He was quite chubby to start with, too.
He was a bit of a chubber, and when he chased this goal down, he ran past this Hawthorn defender and scored this goal. It was amazing against Hawthorn. But I wasn't on board until probably the first grand final.
1997.
When he won the Norm Smith. Actually, I don't know if he played. No, it was the Bulldogs game just before that.
Yep.
It was an unbelievable game. But anyway, that's when I jumped on board Andrew McLeod. And after that, I took notice. This guy was so fast and so skillful that I don't think there's anyone been quite at those two things put together as well as he did it. The only thing that let him down was his knees.
Yeah, well, you can't blame injuries, but yeah.
Yeah, but he played 340 games.
Pretty good with bad knees.
On bad wheels, and he was amazing. So Andrew McLeod should have won a Brownlow or 2.
Yep.
Didn't.
I'll tell you what, though, you won't find too many AFL players that will complain about having 2 premierships, 2 Norm Smiths.
That's
and
right.
not having 1 Brownlow. So
100%.
He's not probably, he can sleep quite well.
He can. And so I'm actually looking forward to when they do the EJ Witten game.
Yeah.
Because he's playing again. And he looks like he can still play AFL footy today.
Number 2.
So, yes, opposite to Tom Lynch is Darren Jarman.
Oh, DJ.
Oh, Fudd. I think his name was Fudd.
Fudd.
I think that says it all. Fudd. He's unbelievable. He was 100%. He was the most skillful player. Him and his brother, actually. Him and Andrew Jarman. But Darren Jarman, Hawthorn, Crows. He I think kicked 6 goals each grand final. It was unbelievable.
He had the skills because, let's be honest, he didn't have the physique or the fitness.
Endurance wasn't his go-to, but he was up. So Darren Jarman's number 2, and probably because he's seen me wrestle is Rashudo.
Okay, so this is a really Adelaide Crows top 3 from yours, Steve.
Oh, I didn't notice that. That was odd.
It's convenient.
How weird. Rashudo, he's the type of footy player. He kind of reminds me a bit of myself, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so my 1 year I played in footy.
Yep.
I saw a lot of my qualities in Roo when he played. So
I think he's often said that in interviews too. Yeah.
I actually bumped into him in the toilet at the Alma, and I said, "Hey, buddy, do you remember me?" And he was like, "Yeah, remind me."
Yeah, gave you a blank stare and walked out. Yeah, of course he did.
He reminded me. I said, "Oh, you watched me wrestle," and I had to remind him. I had to go through a lot of detail.
You saw me wrestling. Hey, where you going? Where you going?
Hey, buddy. So Roo's number 3.
Roo's number 3. Well, there you go. He's got Andrew McLeod, Darren Jarman, and Mark Rupert Rashudo. Once again, all 3 Adelaide Crows players. Steve, you are very impartial. We'll go to my top 3 now. And surprisingly, we're going to agree on 1. That is going to be the great Andrew McLeod. Once again, all the points that Steve echoed, McLeod, as much as I hated the Adelaide Crows, and I still do, just watching that bloke go about it, like Steve said, the skill, the pace, it was just incredible to watch the way he could sort of influence a game with, maybe 5 minutes of brilliance, and you couldn't take your eyes off him. He was always going to do something exciting, always had the potential to do something amazing. So for me, number 1 will be Andrew McLeod. And speaking of speed and skill and love for the game, Chris Judd, surprisingly, pops in number 2, the old captain of the Carlton Blues.
Not surprising.
Not surprising, because I'm a Carlton fan, and he's unbelievable. But not even just the Carlton Chris Judd. I'm talking about the West Coast.
The balding West Coast.
The balding West Coast Chris Judd.
Yeah.
He was incredible. Like we mentioned before with Andrew McLeod, the combination of the speed and the skill.
Yes.
He had that as well. He had, I've seen him play games. We were at the old Amy Stadium, which was a fucking dumb. Sorry, I'm so glad they moved to Adelaide Oval because that place was an absolute hole. But watching him play, we were watching a game one night against Port Power. It was Carlton and Port. And it's bucketing down rain, and Carlton are down by 5 goals, and my mates are all just ragging on me the whole game. And the last quarter, he had about 4 or 5 pickups. Like, he would just run through a pack, pick up the ball, and everyone else is like falling over their own feet. They can't, handball, and he was picking it up like it was a dry deck. He was just Up, bang, out of the pack, he's gone. He was just the most skillful player I've ever seen. And the pace on him, and like I said, the pace more so when he was at West Coast, and him and Ben Cousins used to run all over the Crows and knocked him out in a couple of prelims. I know that hurts you still, Steve, so I'm going to rub that one in. But just, everything he did was just silky smooth and just a classy individual. Admittedly, he did get Fev kicked out of Carlton, and that's the only knock against him. But Juddy's number 2. And number 3, it's not so much that he's the best or anything, but I just really enjoy watching him play, and that's Buddy.
Oh, Franklin. Yeah, 100%.
Lance Franklin. I know Wayne Carey's a better player, but I wasn't as in love with footy when Wayne Carey was playing. You watched him, you knew that he was great. You watch the highlights now, and you're like, bloody hell, that guy was amazing. And for those that enjoy reading an autobiography, I recommend his book.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's a very, very good book. But, for me, it's just Buddy Franklin. The way that he can, affect a game with his skill. Like, he's got that ridiculous skill that Andrew McLeod has. That's like he could win a game in 5 minutes if he wanted to. Like he's just. There are times where he's pretty lazy and you won't see him in maybe 2 or 3 games. He'll kick 1 goal 9 1 week, but then the next week he's kicking 11-2 and he's going to win the game off his own boot. He's the last full forward to kick 100 goals.
That's right.
And it's just one of those things. Like you watch him play sometimes. Some of the stuff he does, like I've even said it before. Like he's that guy that you're going to tell your kids about. Like let me tell you, about Lance Franklin, like the way that my dad tells me about players from the 80s and stuff like that. So he's going to get my number 3 for Buddy there.
Definitely. And remember, the dude is 6'6".
Yeah.
He's got skills of Andrew McLeod wouldn't have been anywhere near 6 foot, maybe 5'10", maybe.
And he was the, I think, number 9 draft pick because he was deemed uncoachable.
Yeah, well, that still might be on the
might be on the cards, but he's just an incredible footballer. Anyone that doesn't watch AFL football, I recommend you look up some Buddy Franklin highlight tapes. He's just the stuff that he can do. Especially a couple of years ago, there was an elimination final in the playoffs as we have in the AFL, and he kicked 7, including a goal, like a game-winning goal from the left boundary line outside 50-metre arc. It was against.
Was that not against
no, hang on a tick. Let me. Who did he kick 7 goals against? That was right. He kicked it against the Adelaide Crows, knocked them out of the finals. Oh, you should have seen me celebrating on the couch for Hawthorn. The only time I think I've ever cheered for Hawthorn was to knock the Crows out of the playoffs. It was amazing. And on that note, guys, we're going to finish tonight's show. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Please hit subscribe on the link on iTunes, and we will see you all next week.
Peace.
Mwah.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.